Now, can children who have never been to school teach themselves basic reading, writing, and math skills using only a tablet computer? Well, Elon Musk and the X Prize Foundation are betting $15 million on the idea that they can. Here's viewers Tina Trin.
In the developed world, learning numbers with a mobile app like this one is nothing new. But in developing countries like Tanzania, the impact can be life-changing.
90% of the kids who will receive these tablets are at zero. 90% of the kids who are going to receive these tablets cannot identify a letter.
The challenge of universal education may seem insurmountable, but folks at the X Prize Foundation think it can be solved with technology and a hefty reward. The Global Learning X Prize is a $15 million competition challenging the world's best educational app developers to create an app that lets kids teach themselves basic reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Can you develop something that's so intuitive, so inferential, so dynamic that you give it to a child who is illiterate in a very remote part of the world? She picks it up, she touches it, and she begins to learn how to read. And that's the challenge that we put out to the world.
198 teams took up the challenge, and 5 finalists were recently awarded $1 million each to test their app with approximately 4,000 children in Tanzania.
Creating something that works for children who've perhaps never seen a tablet before, never used a tablet or even television is very difficult. So keeping it simple, keeping it focused on the needs of the individual child and adapting to how they learn are the key ingredients.
Global constraints in school construction and staffing are leading competitors to rethink traditional models of learning.
We believe that primary education, which until now has not been really democratized by the evolution of new technology, I think it's ripe for a change.
If we can prove that a child needs no instruction other than what's on that device, then we begin a series of events that will lead, I think, inexorably to a device that is designed for that child in that part of the world with a teacher on it.
In tackling universal access to education, the answers may just lie at the tip of our fingers. Tina Trin, VOA News, New York.
Now, staying on the topic of learning, as part of the African Heritage Month in the U.S. state of Maryland, residents and visitors are invited to Teaching Africa Day, an interactive and child-friendly event that is aimed at educating children and youth about Africa. It will also provide a platform for vendors with the best quality books, videos, games, programs, and other resources that teach about Africa and African heritage. To tell us more about it, I'm joined in studio by Paulette Mpouma. She's a founder and creator of the African Memory Game, a game designed to teach more about Africa. Ms. Mpouma, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, first, let's just go to the whole event. How did this idea come up again?
I think the idea came because we found out we didn't have a platform where we can come together as educators and bring material that can fit for the children of nowadays, for this generation.
Yeah. And here you're talking about both the children of African migrants who are here, perhaps haven't had an opportunity to go back to Africa, but also you are inviting, you know, American kids who may have an interest in Africa, right?
Exactly, American kids, because at school I want all of the children to have the idea, the great idea of Africa that we know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, you know, when people talk about Africa, many times they get excited about Africa in this part of the world. They talk about the safari, the wild animals, you know, people dancing. Now, do you have material that also introduces people to Africa in its totality, not the stereotypical Africa?
Yes, because in Teaching Africa Day, we try to use not only books, but also we try to use material like apps, games. Yeah. We have Genie apps. We have also the African Memory Game that is like a race of knowledge on the continent. Yeah. So most of it is kind of increasing the knowledge of the children on Africa.
Yeah. And not so much, not just about what happens at the national zoos, I mean the game parks, because I even find adults in this part of the world asking me some ridiculous questions.
Exactly.
You know, you go to Africa and all they ask you is about wild animals, like
Exactly.
you live in the wild.
Exactly.
You get to help the kids know that there are also modern cities, there are certain historical sites, there are beaches and all those great things.
Exactly.
What apps do you have available for that, or books that you can find here to teach?
Okay, to Teach Africa Day, we are divided in mostly like 4 parts. You have the books part, books and reading. You have the games part, you have board games, and you have also video apps. You have the entertaining part, that is like also dance, music, language, teaching language, like we have Yoruba and Igbo language in apps with Jenny app. We have also a leadership through like Little Malaika and other programs that are helping to actually incorporate the child of the diaspora of the 21st century in all different avenues.
Yeah. This looks like a real valuable form, a kind of education. Is one day enough? One day in a year?
Yes.
Do you have any, perhaps, idea or any plan to have this kind of more frequent?
It's why we are looking for more partnership.
Yeah.
And we always invite the State Department and different governors. Like we invite this year the First Lady of the government, of the Governor of Maryland, and we invite also the public to, come together and see if we can fundraise to have the event at least twice a year. So we're still waiting for support.
Very quickly, what was the response to the last time when you had this event?
I think it was great, because even the idea of having it twice a year came from someone at the State Department.
Yeah.
He said, why you don't do it twice a year? So it was great also for students, because they actually have a view of all of the great inventors, all of the great opportunities that they have, you understand, locally, because most of the institutions that come together are local institutions.
Oh, great. I wish you well in this event on Saturday. Thank you for joining us today,
Thank you.
Mpouma.
Thank you.
Well, Paulette Mpouma is a founder and creator of the African Memory Game.